Steven,
Ah,
have you ever waited for something for so long, for months and months and months, and then when it arrives, you're thoroughly disappointed?
yeah, I can name quite a few things off that.
Like what?
The Game of Thrones finale. Uh, that's one off the top of my head.
That's good enough because you can relate that to DeAndre Hopkins signing with the Titans yesterday. We'll get
Aw.
into it, but good Lord, was that thoroughly disappointing?
Was it?
Absolutely. For me, it was. I mean, good God, that sucked.
What? Yeah, yeah. You're waiting for a wide receiver to get signed. Of course, it sucked.
You want a bigger payoff than that. We'll get to it. It was awful.
Yeah.
Just incredibly awful. Welcome everybody, Just Your Opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. Thank you, Ernie's, for joining us as always. I'm seeing in the chat here though, they're talking about things we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And it says they used to do Elena intros, but not anymore. Elena still does the intro. You guys got to listen to the podcast. She always does the intro for this. All right, Ernie's?
The Ernies are the Ernies listen twice. They give us the viewership live, and then they'll listen on the recorded podcast later. They got a double dose of JYOM.
And God knows we need it. But thank you to everybody. We actually did pretty well last week, but no one wants to hear about that. We'll talk about a lot of different topics today. We'll talk about DeAndre Hopkins. We'll talk about the running back position being devalued day by day, by day by day.
Day by day.
And we'll review. Have you watched the quarterback show on Netflix?
Uh-huh.
All right, we'll get to that. I saw Mission Impossible. Did you drag Jesse to go see that this weekend?
I did.
All right, fantastic. Before we get to everything, and we'll do a little new segment or kind of an old segment we used to do, but before we get to any of that, we are in a rain delay between the Giants and Reds. Perfect timing because everybody's now going to watch us.
Yeah.
And these are two fun teams right now. But I'll ask you this, Steven, just a quick thing. We don't have to spend too much time on it. Is Ellie De La Cruz a bigger star or name than anybody currently on the Giants?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
No. He's a big personality. He's a big time player. He just does a lot of flashy things. Is he necessarily better than, say Patrick Bailey? Maybe, but like, I don't know, consistently. I haven't really seen Ellie. I saw Ellie De La Cruz make a crazy defensive play today, but other than that, haven't really seen him do much. Whereas I've seen Patrick Bailey framing pitch after pitch, confusing the umpire and confusing the hitters. So no, he may not be a bigger star or a bigger name, but it's just because he's not as flashy and it's not as sexy of a position, the catcher.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing that the Giants are going through right now with I don't think they need a big star to be successful. But, it is lacking interest right now. Even though the Giants are doing well, they're second in the NL West, there is that star power that they lack. And that's why I think both radio stations have been doing this right now, but we're beating the Shohei Ohtani discussion into the ground because that's what the Giants fans look forward to every time, with whether it's Juan Soto or Bryce Harper or Shohei originally when he was coming to America. Everybody wants the Giants to have a big name star, and I don't think Farhan is interested in that right now, and we'll talk about it more. It's not the topic of today, but I just think the Giants don't need a star to be successful, and I don't think that they're going to be in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, and I don't think really any team's going to be in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes when it comes to the trade deadline, because the compensation is just too damn much. You cannot give farm system players to get Shohei Ohtani. That's just not adequate, in my opinion.
All right.
Moving on. We'll talk about that more towards the trade deadline. But Steven, you want to do this today? Little just your headlines, man. Before we get to the bigger topics that we'll expand upon, tell me your headlines that you want to get into today.
Well, pretty much everything that you just listed off. It's just your headlines, man. We brought it back here. All right.
We got the music going too.
We got the music. We got everything. We need to get it pumped up a little bit. I actually got to turn it down. Gonna turn it down.
Yeah.
Producer, turn it down in the back. Turn it down there behind the glass. Jesus, are you listening? We don't have anybody.
You're yelling at yourself.
We don't have anybody behind the glass. All right, the headlines for today. Out of all the franchise tag running backs that got signed, or rather just tagged, there were no players who signed a long-term deal by today's 1 o'clock deadline. Those players include Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, who I know we're going to talk about. But Derek, did you hear about the running back that did get signed today?
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs, the first-round pick for the Detroit Lions, kind of controversial, if I remember correctly, going back to the draft, but he signed his first contract in the NFL. Nothing like the day of signing your first contract only to realize you probably made the wrong career move by becoming an NFL running back.
That's a good point, but I would say he's more of a receiver than a running back, which is
Ooh.
the way the Lions are going to use him. That's what I think. It may be more beneficial to be a running back that catches passes. We'll get to that a little later, but
Ooh.
Jahmyr Gibbs may have lucked out.
You brought up the Giants, Derek, and Shohei Ohtani, and that is a discussion. The Giants are on a 5-game winning streak right now. Maybe could win a 6, depending if the Giants get back from this rain delay.
Currently tied in the top of the 8th.
And maybe they could win, maybe not. If they don't win, whatever. I mean, it's still a race for the top of the National League West right now, but the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, Derek, they're evident, right? And they may be in the hunt for Ohtani, maybe not. But you know what the best Giants selling point is, Derek? Do you know what that is?
The crab sandwich.
Not the crab sandwich.
Okay.
It's not. It does have to do with food, though. It's not the money. Every team has money. They'll be willing to pay whatever. They'll be willing to pay up the
Not
nose
every team
for
has
Ohtani.
money, Steve.
Not every team, but every team essentially in the running has
you
money.
know what I'm talking about.
Has money to pay Ohtani, all right? It's not necessarily future championships either, because who can really predict the future and say, yeah, we're going to be in the World Series hunt for the next 5 years? Nobody could say that, especially when acquiring Shohei Ohtani. No, the Giants' selling point, Derek, the Giants' selling point is our manager can give you great food recommendations. That's our selling point. You want to know where to go to eat in San Francisco? Gabe Kapler's your man. Have you seen his Instagram, Derek?
I know that he was making good date recipes earlier, but now he's on to something else now.
He has made those date recipes with like steak tartare or something out of my price
Making
range.
wrap dates delicious.
But recently, he gave a review of the best burger in San Francisco. And you know, when I think Gabe Kapler, when I think about a man who has like a decimal of a percentage of body fat, that's the one person that I want giving me a recommendation for a damn cheeseburger. Gabe Kapler, food recommendations.
Yeah. You would assume. So which place did he say? Do you happen to know?
I don't remember the name.
Damn it. It
But I don't
probably
trust
is
him
the
at all to
healthiest burger you'll ever have in your life.
Exactly. I don't like what I need someone with a gut. Someone who doesn't have an ab, let alone 8 abs or whatever Gabe Kapler has. If you're going to give me a cheeseburger recommendation, I'd rather have it be from a larger individual. Sorry for the discrimination there, Gabe.
No, but I agree with you. With a guy that actually eats on his birthday a steak cake instead of actually cake, you're not really going to take his advice when it comes to burgers.
And doesn't even eat it. That was ridiculous at the time.
Yeah, like his view of a burger is probably more the lines of Rob Lowe and Parks and Rec, as opposed to Nick Offerman's. Who's my guy?
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson. It's a burger. It's made of meat. Put it in your mouth.
No, we do the mushroom burger. That's what Gabe Kapler does. All right, moving on. The next headline that we're probably going to talk about today, the new Netflix show Quarterback. It's taking the world by storm, something that football fans have been craving. It follows Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. And Derek, I think you can agree. Marcus Mariota, he reminds us that even the best college players, some of the best in franchise history, maybe they don't pan out in the NFL, and that's okay. It happens. It's the NFL. It's hard to make it. Kirk Cousins, he reminds us that maybe he's just a victim of poor reputation, and that contrary to popular belief, there's probably a lot of coaches and players who would like to play with him. I'm thinking a large percentage of coaches and players who'd like to play with him. But you know what Patrick Mahomes reminds us of? He's reminding the fans of any AFC West teams that they won't ever beat him, and he's probably going to laugh his way all the way to the AFC playoffs every single year.
I am in agreement with you there. We'll expand upon it more later, but that guy's the real deal. And I think the show helped, display that.
His laugh is insufferable. All right, last time with just your headlines, man. The last headline of the day, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning came out over the weekend. The $56.2 million that it grossed domestically, kind of below the expectation. Turns out America's growing a little tired of watching Tom Cruise sprint. Not me, though.
Not me.
I like to think that he's metaphorically sprinting away from his connection to the Church of Scientology with every movie.
He's not trying to get away from that. If anything, that movie is trying to reinforce that.
You want to talk about Mission Impossible? Get away from it. Get away from the Scientology Church.
Hey, the music stopped.
Yeah, it's right around there. It faded out. But
By
those
the
are
way,
the headlines for the day.
Nice. I'm with Ernie too on here. Haley Atwell. It was very it was hard to follow the plot when I was staring at her face the whole time.
Yeah, but she wasn't that funny.
That's okay. That's okay.
They needed a little bit of a comic relief with her. It seemed like she had was striving for the fun.
That's why
role.
Simon Pegg's there.
Yeah, but still, Haley Atwell was trying to be funny, but wasn't. Yeah.
All right, we'll get into it. I'm surprised you didn't bring up Steph Curry winning the ACC over in Tahoe this past weekend.
Yeah, he's too perfect. Steph is too perfect, but you know what? To any of us who are insecure when watching Steph Curry, don't you worry. He is perfect compared to everybody else. So don't feel insecure watching him because there's no one that can compare to him. He is one of one. You can all fall into that.
Who was the golfer that was right behind him?
Marty Fish.
He got boned by whatever dickbag, not you, Steven, whatever dickbag decided to scream in his backswing repeatedly. That was horseshit.
Yeah. Yeah, but the game's the game, Derek. You got to play the game. Get over it. Deal with the noise.
So we're supposed to have just some guy like in Happy Gilmore to scream, "Jackass!"
Yes. You think Steph Curry paid that guy?
Yeah, he just pulled a Shooter McGavin. Hey, you want to go to Arby's after this? No, thank you.
Red Lobster, Steph, my treat.
Red Lobster. But you also to bring up Messi, Lionel Messi.
I mean, we had four headlines to get through and four only. I didn't want to make it that long.
No, fair enough. But what's the big deal of him going to Publix?
Well, it's just Messi going to a grocery store. And
has anyone ever been to a Publix?
No, they've been to Publix. Like people on the East Coast love it. They rave about the chicken tender sandwich, is what I've heard.
Ooh, I don't know anything about that. But as a man that went to Publix, I would say probably 5 to 6 times when I was in Florida, because my mom when you live next to a grocery store, you go in every day. Like, oh, we're out of pickles. Let's go over to Publix. And also I probably was demanding, just be like, Mom, we're at Cheez-Its. It's a fine grocery store. I saw a lot of people being like, ew, he went to Publix. It's not the Winn-Dixie. And if you know what I'm talking about, very different. Winn-Dixie is like the Walmart of Florida, where Publix is much nicer.
Right. So what, Publix is the Target of Florida?
No, they're like pretty much Safeway.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
yeah.
The reason that it's a big deal, though, is because Messi can't go anywhere without being absolutely mobbed. So the first time he comes to America, he goes to a public grocery store, literally in the name, Publix. He doesn't go out in public.
From the photos I saw, did he actually park his jet in the fucking parking lot and then go to...
I don't think that's real. I don't know whatever you saw, but that does not sound real.
Dude, if you can find it later, I'll try to pull it up myself. There is a photo of him and his family walking to Publix, and there's a fucking jet in the background.
No chance that's real.
I know, like that looks ridiculous, but like I'm watching Around the Horn, and they're showing that, and I'm like, who the hell, who allowed him to park his jet right there?
Yeah. Don't think that's real.
No, probably not.
Yeah, no, he just drove his family in those clear sandals that he had in a jet.
He had jellies on, like the dude.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Those are my jellies.
It's a huge deal, man. It's I think for the first time for any of the uninitiated, that stadium was sold out just to see him walk out there and introduce Messi. Like, that's how big of a deal he is. It's insane. And it's actually funny right now. Cristiano Ronaldo, who everyone compares him to, it's like anytime that a Messi highlight is posted, someone will comment on it saying Ronaldo's better. Anytime someone posts a Ronaldo highlight, says Messi is my GOAT, whatever it is. But Ronaldo, the ego is really getting the better of him. He joined that Saudi Arabian league, and now
Mm.
he's like, now that I signed over here, everyone is signing over here. Everyone wants to come to this league, and it's not necessarily true. But it seems like him and Messi are kind of in a battle now to see who can popularize their respective league more than the other.
So you're saying the rivalry is getting messy?
I would say so. I'd say it's getting. Damn it! I can't think of a joke in time.
Yeah, I stole it already.
Nah, I tried to think of another one. Yeah, damn it. Move on.
You spent too much time writing those just your headlines, man.
That's what I'm trying to do, Derek. We're gonna have a joke off. I want you to write just your headlines, man, next time, and then we just like joke back
Well, we're
and forth.
trying to do a weekend update thing here between Colin Jost and Michael Che.
Yeah, not that, but we go through the headlines right away because I felt like listening to our previous podcasts, we kind of explained things at the beginning. We'll get to that. But instead, just get out of the way all of the headlines at the top of the show, and then we go from there.
I like it. You're finally contributing. All right. Let's get to the topic of the day that we'll spend some more time on, obviously. Franchise tag deadline was today for players to sign the franchise tag. Well, actually, not necessarily. No, there's still plenty of time for them, I guess, to sign the franchise tag. It's just a matter of whether or not those players are going to get bigger extensions.
It was the long term. It was the long term.
Yes, exactly. So basically, by 1:00 today Pacific time, if a player did not reach a long-term extension with their team, then this upcoming season, they are playing for the franchise tender, or they're signing a 1-year deal for more money. Now, I was under the impression that this has happened in the past, and I've never heard of anything like this except for this season. So a lot of guys were shed out of luck. So the players that were affected were Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. All three players are going to play for $10 million this year if they choose to play on the franchise tag.
Should they choose to accept it?
Exactly, like Mission Impossible. If they, if they happen to get a bigger amount of money for 1 year, they could do that as well. But as far as getting a multiple year contract extension, that is out the door. All three of those guys will not be getting that this season. And I am not surprised whatsoever. I know last time we did the podcast, I was telling you that Hondo Carpenter wrote an article kind of saying that he expects Josh Jacobs, when push comes to shove, to get a deal done today. And I thought that was probably going to happen as well until Friday. I saw the breaking news that Joe Mixon decided to take a substantial pay cut this season, going from $10 million to I think about 5.5, and he gets $2 million incentives. So when I saw that news, I was like, damn, he just screwed it for everybody else. If more running backs are willing to accept this, then a lot of teams are just going to not be willing to give them bigger money. So as it pertains to Josh Jacobs and the Raiders, the story is, as Tom Pelissero reported, that Josh Jacobs showed up to the Raiders facility with Max Crosby, waiting in his car in the parking lot to see if the Raiders were actually going to strike a deal with his agent. It did not happen, and now we probably will not see Josh Jacobs for a long time, as he's going to hold out. It sounds like Saquon Barkley is going to hold out. The only guy that's willing to accept this is Tony Pollard. And as far as the only guy that got an extension, Evan Ingram, a tight end, got 3 years, $41 million, 24 of which is guaranteed. So the truth of the matter is the NFL and their teams are not valuing running backs. And I think you made a really good point a couple weeks ago, Stephen. We were talking about this, that guys like Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley ruined it for everybody else because they were fantastic players, arguably offensive players of the year. Their teams were running through them, but they were equally great running and catching. That's what made them so versatile. And both of them, well, Todd Gurley got hurt. Le'Veon Bell wanted a new contract with the Steelers and held out the entire season, and then finally got a somewhat of a good deal with the Jets, and his career was ruined after that. Christian McCaffrey got a deal. We'll talk about him a little bit, how it pertains to all this as well. Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, they all got paid. But those days are going to be over pretty quickly here, as we saw today.
Yeah, it was also the Ezekiel Elliott deal, too, which kind of screwed them over. And that's when teams really started to devalue the running back, especially as all the quarterback market and all those numbers and wide receiver and everything. But first off, doesn't it feel weird that there's a long-term contract deadline to you? Like I get the whole franchise tag thing, but for a deadline to sign a long-term deal, like that just seems off. I know it's probably more complicated than that. And I'm sure there's various reasons as to why they need it. They're not just like, well, you need these guys to sign now just so we can put them under the franchise tag in a couple of weeks and give you that much time between now and training camp, blah, blah, blah. Like, why have there be a deadline? Make the deadline like, I don't know, the second week of training camp or something. It's just very bizarre to me.
I agree. I actually don't remember this being a thing in the past. I'm sure it was, but I've always heard guys getting the franchise tag pulled and then becoming free agents, and then guys getting new deals. But as far as it's too late, there's no negotiating. I've never heard of this before, and that's why I found it weird. I texted John Middlecoff about it, as I said last podcast, and he told me it doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But it is the case. This is true. So Josh Jacobs cannot sign a multi-year extension with the Raiders.
Yep. And I want to bring up this tweet, too. Not Le'Veon Bell's, because Le'Veon Bell also tweeted asking why he's trending. And then he put an LOL at the end, so maybe he knew.
Is this Mac Miller's tweet?
What?
Is this? Sorry, not Mac Miller. Sorry,
it is. It is Matt. It is
Matt Miller, not Mac Miller.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
This one though that he said, been saying it for years. Drafted RB, play the RB if he's good. Franchise tag the RB one time, and then draft an RB.
Yeah,
and
that pissed off a lot of guys.
That pissed off everybody. But those are the facts of the deal. But what gets me about the Raiders, the Giants, and the Cowboys, these are the three that we're talking about here. So the Giants, that one's an interesting one to me because it felt like Saquon Barkley's kind of their whole team. In the way they run their offense, it's all centered around Saquon Barkley. That one was a surprise. But they drafted a running back this year in the fourth round out of Oklahoma. I think his name's Eric Gray. So they drafted him. Then the Cowboys also drafted a running back this year. It's somewhere in the 4th or 5th round. The Raiders, they didn't draft a running back this year.
Yeah.
They drafted Zamir White last year, but that's not a guy who can replace an all-pro running back, a Pro Bowl running back, a guy who was the bell cow for your team, having the most, whatever it was, just setting numerous records, franchise records for Raiders running backs, looking like the best probably since Marcus Allen. And they think Zamir White can just replace that. Is this simply like a money thing? Do they have a plan here in the long-term future? Is this just McDaniels being stubborn because as cocky as he is about quarterbacks and how he said before, like behind closed doors, that he can make even a high school quarterback into a Pro Bowl quarterback? I think that might apply to his run game too, because the Patriots didn't have high value running backs. They got 18 touchdowns out of LeGarrette Blount for 1 year, for Christ's sake. Like so which one is it? The Raiders one makes, and I know I talked about the Giants one with Saquon and how their offenses run around him, but in regards to the future, this is the one that makes the least sense to me, especially with the way that they talked about how much they love and how much they've spoken in high regard of Josh Jacobs, number 28. I wanted to say the jersey number. I think I got it right. I almost forgot it. Guys are switching their jersey numbers all over the place. I didn't
Not anymore. He's number 8 now.
He is number 8. Okay. Yeah. Shout out to
Marcus Mariota?
Steve Young, whatever.
Okay. Or Marcus Tuiasosopo?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
Ooh, do we do this? Do we do this for the next podcast? The best number 8s in football history.
Sure. We'll do that for the whole time. Just your number 8s, man. This was a talking point last year, if you remember, man, when we were talking about the Hall of Fame game and he was showcased in the Hall of Fame game. And all of us were like, why the hell is Josh Jacobs playing in this game when no one else is playing? And then he didn't play another snap in the preseason. I do think that Josh Jacobs, while he does like, Josh McDaniels, while he does like Josh Jacobs, he's not going to bend over backwards to give him a big deal. I think this is the mindset of the New England Patriots from the past, where they just didn't pay anybody. I think it's going to be the same with the Raiders going forward. And I know that you're saying like Zamir White's not that guy, but I think they probably do think that. And yeah, this is where things could get interesting. I'm not necessarily, but here's my thing too. So Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley have been reported that they will not be going to training camp. They're going to hold out now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the only one that really is content on playing on the franchise tag is Tony Pollard.
Rightfully so.
But my question is, what is Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs holding out for? I know that it's unfair of what happened with them today. But as far as getting a better deal, you can't get one. The deadline's up. So either you're playing for $10 million, which if I look at the highest compensated players in the NFL right now as far as running backs, that counts for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th as far as the highest paid guys. We'll go through the whole list in a little bit here. But if you can't get a multi-year deal and your only hopes are getting paid $10 million or a little bit more, what's the point of this? I don't understand the holdout point. I know that they're frustrated. I know they're upset, and rightfully so. But what's the point of holding out right now if you can't get more money?
It has to be a respect thing. Just these guys wanting to demand that respect that they feel they deserve, and to do so with a contract, to do it with a 4-year deal worth, I don't know, maybe whatever Le'Veon got with the Jets. I forgot the total, but it was like 13 mil per year.
It was actually less in hindsight of what he could have got with the Steelers. He screwed himself.
Yeah.
I totally hear you, Steven, but if the way that the CBA is set up, and they cannot, for whatever reason, why this was agreed to, this is a dumb thing, I think, in the NFL.
Yep.
If players that are franchise tag cannot get a multi-year deal past today, July 17th, then why are you holding out?
Yep.
If this is the best you can do, then what is this really all for?
There's no right answer to it. Like, there's whatever you're asking, there's no right answer. They're stuck, going with a cliche here, but they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Like, because if you don't, let's just say they do hold out for the entire season. Well, the last known example we have of that is Le'Veon Bell, and that's why his name was trending. But after that season, he just looked like a totally different player. And there comes a time when it's like, okay, is this the best? This might be the best thing for you now, but you're not going to make any money. And you'll feel like your dignity is a lot stronger, and you're making a point, you're standing up for yourself for whatever you believe you're worth. But also, if you take a year off, like, what if that hinders you? What if all the momentum that you've been building here, like Saquon, for example, with the comeback, like all of a sudden looking like the number one running back in football again? Or I actually don't believe that Tony Pollard's going to hold out at all. I'm taking him out of this conversation. I think Pollard.
It sounds like he's gonna go show up.
Tony Pollard's getting his first chance to start as the number one running back. He's not going to pass that up just so he can hold out for a new contract. But Le'Veon Bell is that cautionary tale, man, where it's just like, if you take a year off, maybe they won't do what Le'Veon did, which was, just spend his time at strip clubs and try to become a rapper. Maybe they're not going to do that, but taking a year off is not necessarily good for you, the player. Like, it doesn't do any, it doesn't do any benefit. And 10 million, hell of a lot better than nothing.
That's what I'm saying. And yeah, unless these guys get more money added on to 1-year deals, this is the best you're going to get. And this is not going to be the same thing. I know Jesse made a joke in here in the comments here, but and the NFL needs running backs.
If SAG-AFTRA can, they can too.
Hollywood's just going to use AI to replace all their fucking actors, which is just terrible in its own right.
I also saw some of those actors though holding the picket fences or the picket signs, and I'm just like, you guys have made enough money in your career. Way to go. You're going on strike after making millions and millions of dollars.
There you
Good
go,
for-
Steven. Shilling for the man.
Good for you.
You're a big Bob Iger guy.
Yeah, huge. Huge. Love me some Bob. Bobby I. It's my guy.
Here's my thing with the whole running back dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just read some of the highest paid running backs in football right now.
Do it.
You got Christian McCaffrey, who's making $16 million a year.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara, who's making 15. We don't know
Yep.
what's going to happen with him with the status this season, but he's the second highest paid running back when it comes to a yearly total. You got Derrick Henry at 12.5. You got Nick Chubb at 12.2. Joe Mixon, that was just changed, so let's take him out of that. You got Aaron Jones at 12 million, and then you got the three guys that were tagged today or tagged in the past but didn't get big deals: Pollard, Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. McCaffrey's the last guy that's going to get his money because I think Kamara's deal's coming up pretty soon. Derrick Henry will be a free agent after this season. Nick Chubb, I'm not really sure about, but McCaffrey's deal I think goes until 2026. And you can make the argument that the Niners are really the only teams in the NFL, or really the only team in the NFL that values running backs like that because they put more stock in the running game than they do in the passing game. Now, they have great receivers in Debo and Ayuk and George Kittle, but their quarterbacks are interchangeable. Like, we'll see what happens this year if really Brock Purdy stands out between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. That's a conversation for another day that I do not want to get into. But as far as running backs, I think that the Niners really do value that position where Kyle Shanahan wants to draft one and wants to have a plethora in his stable. That's why he went out and got Christian McCaffrey for multiple draft picks. That's why he got Elijah Mitchell or Jordan Mason or any of these other guys that are part of, their running back room. I think that the Niners are really one of the last teams to really value running backs and as it goes to more of a passing league.
Well, what do you mean value, though? Like monetarily?
Well, I'm not saying that. No, not monetarily, because
they
Kyle.
don't.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Kyle's dad was the one that kind of did the whole shenanigans or Shanahanigans, whatever you want to call it.
Nice.
Where he would get a new Bronco running back every year. It started with Terrell Davis, and then Terrell Davis got hurt. Then it went to Orlando Gary and Clinton Portis, and they traded away Clinton Portis after one season or two seasons for Champ Bailey. And then he got like Tatum Bell and Reuben Drones and guys like that. Titans do value the running back. Yes, I see Ernie in the comments here, but I don't think they will after this season. I think this is Derrick Henry's last season with the Titans, and I don't even know if he's going to make it till the trade deadline. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit here with DeAndre Hopkins. But when I bring up Christian McCaffrey, it's also in the sense that he does more than just run the football. He is basically a running back / receiver. That's why you see him get paid that money, and it's why you see Alvin Kamara make that money. I was kind of surprised that Saquon Barkley is not put in that same category where he's valued in that aspect because he is another receiver on that team. He is very good at catching passes. So is Tony Pollard, but he needs to prove himself to be the actual starter this season. So I do understand with him getting tagged. Something that we haven't seen a lot in Josh Jacobs' game yet is catching passes. Now, he did it a lot while he was at Alabama, but for whatever reason, while he's been with the Raiders, he's a strict running back. So my advice to running backs going forward is you got to
become a wide receiver.
Well, you got to be a hybrid kind of. That's what Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be. Like Christian McCaffrey, he's not getting another deal with the Niners. His days are done with that. Like he'll play out his contract, and then it's probably over for him, which is just the reality. Even guys like Austin Eckler, who I think in the last two seasons has gotten 38 touchdowns. He's just as lethal as he is through the air as he is in the ground, maybe even more through the air. But he wants a new contract, and the Chargers didn't give it to him, and he looked around this offseason to find other teams that'd be interested in him and give him his contract. And everyone said no. And what's funny about Austin Eckler, and the ironic thing is, he, back in 2019 or whatever year it was, Melvin Gordon was holding out because he wanted money. And then the Chargers basically said, no, we're not doing that. And Melvin Gordon came back with his tail between his legs. And then Austin Eckler became the featured back. And then they shortly just moved Melvin Ingram out of that slot, and Austin Eckler became the guy. Now Austin Eckler wants to be that guy. And I can guarantee you they're not going to make him that guy. You will see, like, this is a big implications with fantasy this season. Isaiah Spiller, whatever running back they drafted a season ago, they're going to start to feature him a little bit more because he'll take Austin Eckler's spot after this season. It's just going to be a weird thing now where I do think that team should value running backs. Do they need to make, 15 million, 20 million a year? Like, I would say, even though Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing last season, I can understand why they don't want to pay him 20 million a year. I think 15's appropriate, and I would pay 20 towards the guys that do a little bit more, like McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara, the guys that actually catch passes, Saquon Barkley. And not to say that Josh Jacobs doesn't do a lot for the team, but you could make the argument that that position's interchangeable. So I do understand why maybe they're trying to get Zamir White in that spot. But then again, the offense ran through Josh Jacobs last season. Like, the most effective games offensively were Josh Jacobs rushing for 150 yards, or especially in that Seattle game where he had the touchdown run, 84 yards to win the game. So they do have to value running backs more than what they're doing right now. I can tell you that this probably screwed over Dalvin Cook today. Like, he's holding out hope that the Dolphins or whoever pays him $15 million, and after this, they're like, why would we do that?
Right.
So this is screwing. This is screwing running backs, and I understand everybody's upset. I know Christian McCaffrey tweeted out earlier today, this is criminal what they're doing, but I do kind of understand it. Like, earlier this year, there was a lot of talk of collusion with Lamar Jackson. I don't think that was collusion. I think it was just the league going, no, this is ridiculous. We're not going to do what the Browns did. I think this is more of a collusion with pretty much teams and the NFL in general just being like, we're taking a stance here. We're not paying these guys the amount of money that they want.
You think there's ever going to be like a point in time where there's just no running backs? I remember we brought that up with Lowe.
Yeah.
And we'd make fun of it a little bit. Talk about the zero personnel where it's just like the 2 personnel or 3 personnel where you have 0 running backs and then like 3 tight ends or whatever. I mean, is this just going to get to a point where running backs are just phased out and you know what? We'll just create a hybrid like Debo and put our money elsewhere into wide receivers. Is that where we're going? Because I thought this was going to be about guaranteed money. Personally, I thought Jacobs was going to be getting, I was looking, anywhere between whatever McCaffrey, Kamara, and Derrick Henry are making. So McCaffrey is making 38 fully guaranteed, or practically guaranteed rather. And Kamara is making 33. Derrick Henry's making 25. Good Lord, 25. So 25, 33, 38. Those are the numbers of the top 3 guys. I figured Jacobs would want maybe a practical guarantee of, I don't know, 30 million a year, maybe a little more than that. A 2-year deal somewhere around 32, 33 million on average. He doesn't have to have the highest average, the highest AAV, but this could be a real turning point, man. Like, this really could start a trend, unless there's something new that happens where they're completely fought for and they negotiate, the NFL Players Association and whatever. Like, the running back shouldn't be phased out of the game, for one. I don't think it should. I don't want it to be. But with this, I also wonder what his negotiation was, though. Like, what was the number that he wanted that they weren't willing to give him? Like, where was the line drawn? Was it like a 2-year, $34 million deal where it's like 17 mil a year? I don't know. Vinny Bonsignore, the guy who's supposed to be the Raiders beat reporter, is being very, how do I put it? Just very vague with the things that he's saying. Well, there was a deal. The Raiders did make an offer. And, just these questions that are being asked, and he's just giving yes or no answers, but there's no specifics on it. Well, what were the specifics? That's what I want to know. All I know is that he was waiting in his car with your star player, by the way, your captain, Max Crosby.
Yeah.
And you don't sign him to a long-term deal. That's, you know what? Maybe we do get low on this situation. That'd be an interesting.
Oh, it's not the first time I've tried to contact Lorenzo Neal.
Oh, I'll get him on the phone. He likes me more. So we'll
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I need him coming on here either. He just,
Steven, He got fat.
Exactly. He'd say 10 to 15 words, and then in the middle of every point, he's going to be like, Steven, they fatter than you now, these running backs. They more fat than you are. That kind of thing. I don't need that.
They're phasing out my guys.
But I don't. It goes so back and forth with this thing. But what was Jacobs asking for? I don't know. Nobody knows. But this is not good for the Raiders. It's not good for morale. How's Max Crosby going to trust what they got going moving forward? It's like, hey, you paid me. Why aren't you paying this guy who's helped kind of mold this team into who they are? And we're the leaders without Derek Carr. Like, what are we doing here?
No, I mean, I get it. I get it that the running backs have a huge impact on the game. But I also understand that when the offensive line blocks, it could be anybody back there. But then again, guys that really transcend the game. Like,
well, I get you understand that, but like I'm talking about personal stuff here. Like,
yeah, I know.
Feelings toward their organization. Like, guys were starting to kind of get phased out of the Raiders as Gruden came along. Some didn't go with his style. They didn't flow with him. Some did, but I think a lot didn't. I think that's why like Rodney Hudson was just able to go without anything. He was just cut. He was just gone. The captain from the team. I think there's little things like that, but I think it gets to personal relationships here too. I get everything, and I know it is what it is, and we have to accept it. But what does this do for the team morale? It doesn't do anything good.
Well, I can tell you if they go into the season with Zamir White as their leading guy, it's going to be detrimental to the morale of the team.
Well, if they win, then
yeah, but also
that cures all. That cures everything if they win, and then they kind of just say, all right, well, maybe I overreacted, but Raiders don't look like they're built to win if they don't have Josh Jacobs on their team.
Well, especially when you have Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback, and you kind of need a running game to help him out. I mean, like that's the big thing here is Jimmy has always benefited from a running game with the 49ers. And he's going to rely on Zamir White now as his lead guy. That's the thing, too. I saw a rumor, I guess, over the weekend that the Raiders would look to shop him. But also, if you're tagged, does that prevent you from getting a deal done with another team? Like, let's say the franchise, I mean, the deadline was passed already at this point. Let's say that the Bears were brought up, and that's really ironic to me because in that slot, Josh Jacobs was drafted with the Khalil Mack pick that was traded to the Bears. So let's say the Raiders traded Josh Jacobs to the Bears. Could the Bears now sign Josh Jacobs to a long-term deal? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think you do either. But then my rebuttal to that be, is any team really willing to do this at this point? It sounds like nobody is.
I don't think so. I don't think running backs, long-term contracts, I don't think they coincide with one another. I don't think they mix.
I think it's going to be, I mean, like we should have known this was coming when a month ago Dalvin Cook was released after having a 1,000-yard season, and all because the Vikings didn't want to pay him $10 million. Now he'll gladly take that $10 million somewhere else because that's probably the best he's going to get right now in the open market with how things went today. Like, I understand the rationale behind NFL general managers with this, but also, yeah, Steven, there's the human element to this. Like, you need running backs. Like, it's crazy to think 15 years ago, however long, LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson, Sean Alexander, these guys were MVPs of the league, and that's how you built your team. You had a great quarterback, and you had great receivers. Things have changed, but you really went through that guy. Those were the faces of football, and that's when guys like, remember when Ronnie Brown was taken like second overall? Like those days are over.
List off those guys again one more time.
Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, that. How many Super Bowls were won between them?
And that's the thing,
because it's all Brady, Manning, Flacco in the AFC, Ben Roethlisberger. It's no talk. There's not much talk about Jerome Bettis and how he might have been one of the catalysts for Ben Roethlisberger's Super Bowl, his rookie season. It's all Ben Roethlisberger and what he did. So, yeah, it's unfair. But like those guys, it's the quarterback. And with running backs, if you're a running back, when you have it, you have it. Some guys are more special than others, but as a running back, you don't necessarily need a guy who's going to get you a little Chris Johnson 2,000 yards in 2008. You don't need that. You need a guy who can just get you first downs, pick up a solid 4 to 5 yards every time you run the football, something that helps move the chains, whatever cliches you want to go with. And so it really does seem like they're interchangeable right now, but there's going to be, I think this is really going to change a lot of perspectives just around everything from college to high school to pee-wee football. Some kids might say they want to grow up to be running backs. Well, their dad or mom or whoever's influenced them to play. Actually, kid, you should go play wide receiver instead. Running backs don't get paid anymore. Like, what's going to happen with that?
Probably a lot of kids will not play running back. They'll play something else. Like a lot of like, you'll be a slot receiver. If you're 5'6" and you're shifty, you could be a punt returner, kick returner, slot guy. It's funny you bring up what do parents tell their kids they want to grow up to be a running back? My little brother, when he was a kid, loved Adrian Peterson, and his dream was one day I'm gonna grow up to be a running back. And this was when I was in high school, and I was just being realistic and kind of a dick. I would tell him, "No, what are you crazy? You're white. You'll never be a running back."
It's a solid point.
It would just crush. No, I mean, it was a solid point, but my parents would be so upset with me. Just like, don't tell him that. What's wrong with you? And then Peyton Hillis got on Madden cover, and my little brother was like, "See?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever happened to Peyton Hillis, though?"
Yeah. And then what did he say? Next up, I want to be a cornerback. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
White people don't exactly play that position either.
Exactly.
Jason
Sehorn, I think, once, but
yeah. Just look for something else. No, it sucks, man.
No,
sucks. I kind of don't know really where else to take this conversation other than
there really isn't, because we're also making the arguments against the running backs at the same point. Like, while we think it's unfair, you just brought up the point of how many of the last Super Bowl winners have a great running back. It's Isaiah Pacheco, who's fine, but he's never going to lead the league in rushing. Cam Akers for the Rams. Like we always say, like when it comes to playoff time, like the best teams are the ones that have a good defense and running game. But then we don't remember that. It's always, oh yeah, well, Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl, or Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl. And also Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl with Damian Williams and Isaiah Pacheco as his running backs, things that people won't remember. I think the last guy to win the rushing title and win the Super Bowl was Terrell Davis. And I don't think teams value that now.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, it's been a while.
It has been. Anyway, we'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs. I don't think he has a lot of leverage here. I know he's going to hold out. We're probably every day there'll be questions whether or not he's going to be with the Raiders. But I think when push comes to shove, Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs may not be long-term Giants or Raiders, but I think, because both of them will hit free agency after this season, but I think when push comes to shove and they need to play this season and get their money, they'll just end up playing.
It's the most NFL thing ever to just have this whole discussion surrounding CTE, a degenerative brain disease, which can hit any player that plays football, but running backs are like the most at risk.
Yeah.
And teams are saying, nope, we are not going to pay you, even though you're risking potential years of your life just to play this sport. No, we're not going to pay you. It's just anytime, if anyone thinks the NFL is standing on some sort of moral high ground on whatever basis, they're not. They're not.
It is brutal. You go hear an interview with Earl Campbell today, and it's just tough to watch. But even that back then, like guys, were valued a little bit more because people were winning MVPs playing running back. I think those days are over now. I think quarterbacks are so valued, and we'll talk about it a little bit here with that Netflix show. But just a new day.
Talk about that.
We will. Before we get to that, DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh God, what with him? What do we have to discuss?
I just thought it was going to be something more than this. I'm just thoroughly disappointed because this move sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so you hear for months.
In your face.
Well, you're happy that I'm upset with this?
Yes.
So for
Yes,
months,
I am.
like not even in the off season, like when the season ended, there was a report out there that DeAndre Hopkins was going to get traded, and then you wait and you think like, oh, like this is everybody's hope. Like no one ever thinks like, what's the place where he could go to where he could get the most money? It's always shit. DeAndre Hopkins, he'd be sweet on the Bills or he'd be sweet on the Chiefs. It's never like, oh, he's going to cash in and get some good Titans money. Like this sucks. So yesterday, get the notification that DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm pretty sure Adam Schefter and Rappaport and even Diana Rossini weren't the first ones to break this. I think it was Doug Cade or Cade, whatever how you ever pronounce his last name, that covers the Patriots.
Gotcha.
He broke the story, and I'm sure they were all pissed that they've been waiting for months, and a local beat writer broke the story. Regardless, DeAndre Hopkins signs with the Titans, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Well, he probably got something close to Odell Beckham money. And then I saw the terms, and it was 2 years for $26 million with the opportunity to get 30 in incentives. And I was like, damn, he's signing for 2 years? I can understand signing 1 year because you want to get your money, and then you go, all right, I'm done. I'm going to go actually play for the Bills or Chiefs now. But he's locked in with them for 2 years, maybe. I understand that he, at this point in his career, has had a reputation and expectations of how much money he's going to make in his life. And if you want to keep that going, then by all means, go to the Titans and be terrible. But you can't, like, this whole thing's bullshit. Like, you can't months ago go on I Am Athlete and be like, well, the days of me playing with a rookie quarterback are over. No, it's not. Will Levis is probably going to play this season. So throw that out the window. I want to play for a team that has a good defense. Yeah, Titans have a good defense. Okay. I want to play with a great quarterback, the likes of Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. You're playing with Ryan Tannehill. Like, if you want to be paid, then just say that. Don't go on some soapbox and say, I'm ready to go be a Hall of Fame wide receiver and go play with Hall of Fame quarterbacks and act like are the Titans even really that much better than the Cardinals, in my opinion, right now? I don't think so. I think they're in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, to be completely honest. So I just thought it was lame that DeAndre Hopkins goes through all this of saying he wants to go to the Chiefs or wants to go to the Bills, and he could have gone to those teams willingly if he was willing to accept that he was not going to be one of the top paid wide receivers in football. Because if that was the case, he would not be the wide receiver ones for those teams. And that would make more sense football-wise. Him going to the Titans and being forced the ball by Ryan Tannehill, and it's just not like Derrick Henry. I don't see him staying with the team. I see the Titans being a terrible team. I see DeAndre Hopkins being so frustrated with the situation in Tennessee and him wanting to get out of there after one season. So glad you got your money, but this is all bullshit.
You waited all damn off season, and he goes to the Titans, Tennessee Titans, the wide receiver graveyard. That's where they go to end their careers. Randy Moss, Andre Johnson.
I'll read you these stats.
Oh boy,
Randy Moss, when he got cut by the Vikings in 2010, the rest of that season with the Titans, 6 receptions for 80 yards, 0 touchdowns. Andre Johnson, his last season in the league with the Titans, 9 receptions for 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. Julio Jones, his one season with the Titans, 24 catches for 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know all of those are not related to DeAndre Hopkins, but good God, man.
You know what's ironic about this whole thing?
What's that?
Is that if they were going to go the Titans route, if he was going to go to the Titans route, you know where would have been the better option? Should have just gone back to Houston. Play with CJ Stroud. Go with this up-and-coming offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, who's going to be the next generation from that podcast from the Playmakers. Like, you want to talk about the young guys who have been within that system from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree? Bobby Slowick is it. D'Amico Ryans can probably help that defense a little bit. That's so ironic, man, that the place he left, the place that he hated, is probably the better option than Tennessee. anywhere but Tennessee. I don't know. I'm actually hoping Will Levis plays well because he seems like an okay individual, and I'm looking forward to watching him. But Houston would have been the better option for DeAndre in the end.
Well, even would the Patriots have been a better option?
Well, you don't have well, that's a different story because then you're going back to, Bill O'Brien and you got.
It sounds like he was willing to do that. My thing with New England was they were not willing to pay him the same amount of money that Tennessee was.
But you also have a quarterback like Mac Jones who's not going to, who's just regressing, I think, who's going to regress again this season.
No, that would not have been a good situation either, in my opinion.
No.
Now, but would I have lived with it better than the Titans? Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, like, DeAndre Hopkins, I'll be completely honest, he's a good player. He's not a great player like he used to be anymore. And I know he came out a couple weeks ago saying, if I don't get 1,000 yards in my career, then I'm going to retire. Well, that very well could happen this season because Treylon Burks is a up and coming receiver, but they're going to force the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, and it's not going to be pretty. He should have gone to a place where he was the number 2 receiver. He would have been so complimentary to Stephon Diggs or Kadarius Toney with the Chiefs. Like, he's made $111 million in his career in places that don't have state income tax, in Houston and in Arizona. So he collected most of that money. It just would have been nice for a change if you're going to go on your soapbox and do the whole I am athlete thing and say, I want to win, then actually show that. And you know what's funny, too? The most ironic thing out of this whole thing? He did not get there. I guess there was a deal close to him getting traded to the Buffalo Bills at one point, and he refused the restructuring of his contract because once Odell got $18 million a year, then he was like, well, I deserve that too. But now he settles for $12 million. So I'm sure if DeAndre Hopkins was going to get traded to the Buffalo Bills, they probably asked him to restructure his contract to probably $10 million, from $19 million to $10 million, which is not that much different than what he's getting with the Titans right now. So really, he screwed himself. He could have gone to a better team for probably the same amount of money if he was willing to cooperate a little bit better earlier in the offseason. Now that we're in June, only the desperate teams were willing to give him the contract. And then he caved, and he went to the Titans.
I love how he also tweeted that, where was it?
The one that I sent you?
No.
Well, bring that one up, because that's really telling, in my opinion.
Or wait, was it the one you sent me? Might have been the one you sent me.
He deleted this.
Which one?
The one that says, all y'all sports experts and analysts be mad at your management, not me.
Yeah. That one.
That pretty much, if I'm going to translate that was, I wish I could have gone to the Bills or Chiefs if they would have paid me more money. And then he immediately deletes that and says, I can't wait for the haters this season. Let's go Titans. He doesn't want to be there. I mean, I guess he does. Like, I don't doubt that he likes Mike Vrabel and he likes his OC, Tim Kelly, that he knew from the Texans. He probably likes Tennessee. He's a country guy. He went to Clemson. But you can't tell me that he expects to win in Tennessee.
All the offseason, all for the Titans. Tighten up. You know what? I'm going to root for the Titans this year. Let's go Titans. I bleed powder blue.
It's not even powder blue. It's a...
What is it?
It's a disgusting color. Like, he's not going to look good in that uniform either. Like, he's... He would, like, I can't believe I like all this shit, but like all the Photoshop stuff where it's like, ooh, him in a Bills jersey, that looks sweet. And I'll even say this: yes, this is how much of a Raider fan I'm not anymore. If he would have gone to the Chiefs, I would have come on this podcast with you and be like, God damn, Raiders can catch a break. In the back of my mind, I've been like, this is going to be sweet with DeAndre Hopkins and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it would have been, but it's not. And let's move on. Let's start talking about that. Let's get to this quarterback shot.
Okay.
Because the DeAndre thing, he made the wrong decision. That's it. Like, and we'll see how it plays out during the season, obviously. But this quarterback show, I just got to watching it. I'm like, I think I'm almost done. I think I'm two and a half episodes in. I managed to stream Netflix on my phone. I might be giving this away here, but it doesn't. The whole separate account thing doesn't apply to the old phone, so I was able to
I
watch.
don't think that's been an issue right now.
No, I'm watching it through my phone, so I got the
Okay, all right,
the first
all right.
couple episodes, and god damn, I mean, it's everything I expected. Mahomes being Mahomes, just being a badass. Kirk Cousins, I've never doubted that he. Like, I think Kirk Cousins, I made the joke in Just Your Headlines, man, to start the show, but like, I really do think he's been damaged by just this reputation, especially here in the Bay Area when we're crowded around a bunch of people who watch him. I think he falls under that specific athlete where if you just say their name, like you could just say it without even backing it up, and just if anyone's saying anything about Kirk Cousins winning, they'll just laugh in your face and just say, Kirk Cousins, what a joke, Kirk Cousins. But then they won't have anything to back it up outside of the playoff games, which might be true, but that also takes away from the fact that he's a damn good quarterback. He's a damn good leader. No, he hasn't won the big one. And yes, did he line up under a left guard up against the Niners when they were getting absolutely destroyed? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Did they get destroyed by the New York Giants? Yeah. Yeah, they did. Did he look good? No. But I think he's got like a lot more respect from his peers than that of maybe the fan bases around the NFL. And I think he's perfectly okay with that. Love that. And then Marcus Mariota is just a real stand-up individual. Nothing bad to say about him. I do think that was an interesting angle they brought up.
Yeah, I'll get to Marcus Mariota, but this show was incredible. I watched it on my flight back from Florida to the Bay Area, and it was hilarious because in my row, there was a woman sitting next to me. I downloaded all the episodes on Netflix and watched it on my phone, and she turns to me and goes, "We're watching the same thing right now." And I was like, "Oh, really? What do you think of it so far?" She goes, "It's incredible. I'm not even a football fan." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "I just want to see this. This is so insightful." I was like, "Okay, awesome." I turn to my right, down the row, not in the seat next to me, but down more. I'm seeing a guy on his huge iPad watching the same thing. And I'm like waving at him and I'm like, "Hey, I'm watching the same thing. What do you think of it?" He's like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen." And I think it translates to both, football fans and non-football fans. And I think it's interesting to see what these guys go through and the punishment that Kirk Cousins went through. Like everybody, like you said, Stephen, like everybody shits on him for not being a winning quarterback or being cheesy or not being the best, but
just a big game winner. That's really the only knock that you can have on him. He doesn't win under the bright lights, which it's true. It's absolutely true. You can't really say anything against that, but you also can't just say, well, he sucks as a quarterback.
No, and he's dedicated to the game, and he may be corny and cheesy or whatnot, but he definitely is dedicated to being the best that he could be.
This man just wants to sit at the bonfire with Coop.
Exactly. Just wants to do. I feel bad for him because pretty much every mic'd up during a game is him just going, everything hurts.
Yeah.
So I came
You'll
away.
be all right, Teron Payne. Hey, you'll be all. He hits him in the ribs, knocks the wind out of him. Yeah, you'll be all right, bro.
Yeah. I came away having enormous respect for Kirk Cousins watching this.
Yeah.
Now, do I see why the Vikings want to move on from him? Yes, I do. Because there are moments where Kevin O'Connell, his quarterback or his head coach, who knew him from Washington, seems a little frustrated.
Right.
Like there's the scene where he sneaks. I forget which point in the game, or what game it was, or what situation it was. But there's a quarterback sneak. Oh no, it was against the Buffalo Bills. So he's trying to get into the end zone. They stop him on the goal line, and Kevin O'Connell says to him, like, "Why didn't you call timeout? Like I was going to set something up there. Like why'd you just sneak the ball? You didn't check with me. Like, come on, dude, we got to be on the same page here." And I'm sure they didn't really go into detail about it at the end of the game against the Giants. But when Kirk Cousins is explaining his rationale for dumping the pass off to TJ Hawkinson on the 4th and 8, and it was like a 5-yard pass, he says at one point, yeah, Justin Jefferson was double covered there, so I'm not going to throw the ball there with our season on the line. Well, why not? It's 4th and 8. Why wouldn't you throw that ball? It's better than, throwing a 5-yard, little dump off pass to TJ Hawkinson that gets tackled immediately. So while he seems to be a stand up guy, I do understand why he could frustrate a coach.
Yeah. And there's plenty of that, but you can also see why a coach would love to have him as the quarterback because
Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan's one of them, and there's no doubt that he helped draft Kirk Cousins back with Washington under RG3. Probably took a look at him and said, that's something I can work with, even though it probably wasn't fair to Kirk at the time, who was wanting to get the start. By the way, Kevin O'Connell, I've thought this before, but it kind of reignited in my mind seeing him talk up close because I haven't really seen him do too many of those headshots, whatever they call it, the talking heads in a documentary.
Yeah.
I've never really seen him do that. He reminds me so much, and I'm more talking just about the way that he speaks, the tone, the rhythm. It reminds me so much of John Lynch. Like just
a little bit.
The way that he carries the way that he talks. It's all just so back and Kirk was great for us and we didn't like that kind of thing. It's hard to explain. You can't really do an impression of it, but I get such
pretty solid one, right? You just did.
I get huge John Lynch vibes from Kevin O'Connell.
No, definitely.
It's like he's his little
kind of in
brother.
the face too.
Yeah, a little bit. It's just like it's like he's his little brother. He's not exactly John Lynch. I'm not saying he's one of the greatest, most fierce safeties to ever play the game, but just like the way that it's their vernacular. I don't know what it is. It's hard. It's kind of hard to describe. You have to see it, I guess, to make the comparison.
And yeah, but like him willing to, he has like a masseuse or whoever comes over his house every Friday night to get his body back in shape of taking all the beatings. Like, yeah, Kirk Cousins, while he's not the best quarterback in the NFL, he's definitely one of the hardest working. So I think a lot of people gave him a lot of shit over the years, but I think if you watch this, you really would come away respecting him. The guy that comes away looking the best is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
He's a superstar. He talks it and walks it. He is very confident in himself without seeming cocky. And it was refreshing to actually hear him curse and say fuck and actually be a guy. Because to me, it's always been like he's got the Fozzie voice or whatever you want to, like the Kermit voice. And he just, oh, damn it, oh, fuck. It was kind of refreshing. The scene where Andy Reid told him to get his X-ray. It was just kind of refreshing, like when everybody's like surprised to see Steph curse on the sidelines.
Yeah,
like it's refreshing to see him be a guy, and he's all about work too. Like you could see why he's the best. He takes the time in. He's got like a Brandon Payne trainer on the side that helps him out with everything. He takes his time and studies so much, and I came away respecting him even more. And the biggest thing I came away with watching the show is, while he's around, the Raiders are never going to win.
Yeah.
Because this guy is just too damn good. And from the work ethic to just how naturally gifted he is as a thrower, you can't tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to beat this guy. Justin Herbert's the closest thing that can. Patrick Mahomes, I don't do this shit lightly. I never like hyperbole and all that stuff. Everyone says Tom Brady's the GOAT, and I hate that term. As far as a winner, yes. No one's won as much as him, and I respect that. But as far as just pure talent, in my time watching football, I think Patrick Mahomes is the best. As far as just pure talent, I don't think anyone's come close to him. I've seen clips of Dan Marino. I watched Aaron Rodgers. I watched Peyton Manning. Patrick Mahomes is better than all of them.
And I remember reading an athletic article about him a while back, which talked to different teammates, coaches, friends, whatever. And they talked about who he is as a competitor. He's a weirdo. Like, he's a weird person just with how competitive he is. And like, you could even tell it when you're watching him with his family at the ranch, and I don't know what he was doing. He was shooting something out of a cannon, and he's telling his wife, "Oh, that's like a two-seam fastball." He's got sports on his mind all the time. He's a weirdo in that, and it's in the best way possible, in his obsession with it, how seriously he takes it, but also how he's able to have fun at the same time. And that whole thing with Max Crosby was just awesome. And that shows you, like, God, if you manage to wake up the bear, he's gonna come roaring back. You're sure Crosby's
Come on, Max. Come on, Max.
Hey, see, he's the type of guy that repeats everything. He's one of those mic'd up players that repeats everything
Wrong
to, like,
motherfucker.
somebody. Yeah. Hey, he come through and punch me. He punched me. But you know what I did? I threw a touchdown at him. Like that. He's a bizarre guy. But also, you mix that obsession with football that he clearly has. Seems to have his head on straight at the same time. He doesn't seem like he's got a screw loose. He actually seems like he's very locked in and has a good has his what's the term? He has his feet under him, his head on his shoulders, whatever.
Head on his shoulders, which most people do.
Yeah. His head screwed on straight.
Unless you're Ichabod Crane.
But I think that
Sell a little literary reference there. I didn't get any credit for that.
Ichabod Crane. I don't know what Ichabod Crane. And sorry, I've got a lot going on right now. My TV is overheating. It's weird shit going on. What was I saying? Oh, but that obsession mixed with the talent and just his ability. I mean, he talks about it. He uses his talent as a shortstop and uses that as a quarterback. It's just, it's a perfect blend.
Did you find it offensive at all as a Raider fan? And I felt this when he was talking about it's Raider week, playing against the Raiders and Max Crosby, and he goes, when you play the Raiders, it's kind of like a college rivalry, in the sense that both of the fan bases don't like each other. But he didn't call it an actual rivalry. Like, you see it through the show that he takes the games against the Bills very seriously because he's going up against Josh Allen. He really takes the games against the Bengals seriously because Joe Burrow has gotten the best out of him 3 out of 4 times they met. But when referring to the Raiders, and of course this is not even comparable to the Bills and Bengals because Patrick Mahomes has owned the Raiders, but he doesn't, he referred to it as a college rivalry based on just the hatred between the fans. But as far as competitively, it's no question that the Chiefs kick the Raiders' ass right now.
Well, why would I take that personally if it's just facts?
It is facts, but that's just how Patrick Mahomes views the Raiders as a college rival at this point.
Well, think about that though. Like, let's go back to Tom Brady. Would he really have considered, I don't know, the Jets his rival, the Dolphins his rival? No, even the Bills. He wouldn't consider the Bills his rival just because the fan bases hate each other. And no, because he's dominating.
And that's what really I'm getting at with watching this. I'm sure Raider fans watch this to be like, God damn. Because this is the next great quarterback in your own division.
Yeah.
And I understand if you want to move on from Derek Carr to compete with this guy, and if you're not going to sign Josh Jacobs to a long-term deal because you're trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes, then by all means, do all this stuff. But don't tell me it's Jimmy Garoppolo, because it's not.
No, it's not, Mr. I thought you said grapes Garoppolo. Shout out to the Raiders promotional schedule video if you ever watched that.
I never saw that. Great.
It's cringe. Yeah, it's like they had this whole joke about like, oh, that you're talking about the scheduled dates? I thought you said grapes. And he's like eating a whole thing of grapes. It's terrible.
That's like they got something on The Simpsons. You said host? I thought you meant ghost.
Yeah. But yeah, man, there's no competition. So I didn't take offense to that. Like, you just gotta, in the end, you just gotta tip your cap and admit that you are in the middle of something great right now and you're just on the wrong end of it. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, let me think, like Detroit Pistons fans or maybe Phoenix Suns fans. I don't know, anyone that the Bulls beat back in the Jordan days. Like, you're watching something special and you're just in that era of it, and it is what it is. It's kind of like the running back contracts, right? There's not much you could do about it. This is just the state of where you're at, and you're not going to have much of a chance against this guy. And when he seems to have that edge on Max Crosby, like Max Crosby gave him his best. I remember watching that game thinking, damn, they're destroying Mahomes right now. Like he's not doing anything. Then he comes back and that's four. Yeah, yeah. You punch me, I go 4 touchdowns on you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Raider fans watching this and being just frustrated because there's no the worst thing that could have happened for the Raiders and everybody in football is that this guy won so early in his career because now it's just expected. It's just part of his routine now. Where he said like every year the goal is to win a Super Bowl, and some guys play their career just trying to get one. This guy is going to try in everything in his power to win every single goddamn season. It's Montana like, it's Brady like. We're in that era now with Patrick Mahomes.
He's that nuts. It's that championship DNA, man. Once you get one taste of it, then all you want to do is get back to it, and you'll do anything that it takes.
And I also thought about this watching the show. In both those Super Bowls that he won, do you think the Chiefs were the better team between the Niners and the Eagles? I would say no. And the only reason that they won is because Patrick Mahomes was that good. They were down 10 to both teams. They were down 10 to the Niners in the fourth quarter. They were down 10 to the Eagles in this first half. And then Patrick Mahomes he's the difference maker. That's why the Chiefs don't need to bend over backwards to get DeAndre Hopkins or pay Tyreek Hill. They're fine with him because he makes wide receivers great. He is great, and he'll even this is a conversation for another day, but even the best defenses that he's faced, the Eagles and the 49ers, in the end, he was better than them because he's that fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no the talent for the opposition. Yeah, it would go to the other teams if I had to say it, but man, it's Mahomes. You're right. It's Mahomes. Is there any other quarterback you'd want to watch on this show? If there's any other, maybe in the history of the NFL.
Ooh, in the history of the NFL, I mean,
yes, there's one or a couple. I mean, when
yeah, I mean, like
hamstringing ourselves. So I just picked.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, Peyton Manning produced this thing, so it would have been awesome to see him for a full season. I feel like I've seen Tom Brady in some thing have a full season done. I think it was like the first original Football Life where it was Bill Belichick focused, but. The perfect scenario would have been Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. But then again, you want someone's going to stand out above the rest of them. So they dedicate more time to Patrick Mahomes.
You also needed the different versions to quarterback.
Yes.
Because if say those people that you talked to at the airport who are not football fans and watching it for the first time, then they'd watch it and think, damn, everybody's a superstar.
I know.
And it's like, no, there are guys who are just in that third tier who are good, but probably not good enough to win a Super Bowl. And there's also the lower level guys.
Now, to that point, you see how much dedication it takes to be a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And the really good ones and the great ones sacrifice a shit ton.
Yeah.
Like Kirk Cousins, we talked about it. He's taking terrible hits to his body. He still tries his best to be a dad and a father. But most of his time during football season is dedicated to being a football player. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Even though we see, my one critique is a lot of Brittany Mahomes on the show. A lot.
Yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors if they want the social media vultures to stop pecking on their relationship.
Yeah,
those are the right words to use.
I am grateful that Jackson Mahomes does not have a role in the show whatsoever because. Forget that guy.
Yeah.
But a lot of Brittany Mahomes. Regardless, Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins, you see why they're good at their jobs and great at their jobs because they take the time to ask the receivers, "Hey, let's go run some hill drills, or let's stay after practice and throw a little bit more." Actually, that was Marcus Mariota with the hill stuff, but just the dedication they're going to take of, I'm going to study all night, I'm going to do some extra rehab. Going the extra mile. And then you get to Marcus Mariota. And I think Marcus Mariota is a solid quarterback. Good guy, it seems like. Loves his wife. Was a highly... between all three of them, he was the highest drafted between Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes. He went second overall. He won the Heisman. He had the most fame out of the three guys going into his NFL career. And I came, you know, just my mindset of Pat Marcus Mariota after I've watched this is that he plays off of pure talent, but is he really putting in the time and effort to be a great quarterback? There's a moment in there where he's practicing the playbook with his wife, and his wife is reciting the play names to him, and he's having a hard time remembering them. And then there's the whole thing of him getting benched for Desmond Ritter, and then you don't see him again because he got butthurt about it, and he decided to go on IR and hurt his knee when he really could have just been there for his guy. It kind of was reminiscent a little bit of when Jason Campbell kind of went into a shell when the Raiders traded for Carson Palmer. I remember it so well. I remember being around the Raiders facility and my dad complaining about it, and Jason Campbell showed up, and the Raiders were on the verge of being in the playoffs, but there was that one last game against the Chargers they had to win. And someone said to him, "Hey, Jason, you ready for the playoffs? Ready to back this team up?" And he was like, "I don't think so, man. They turned their back on me." It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Of while Marcus Mariota is going to be a backup quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles this year and may have to play at some point for Jalen Hurts, he's never really going to put the time and effort in to be a great starting quarterback because that time in his life has gone by, and he never really had, for what it seems in the show, I could be totally wrong, but really the work ethic to be a great quarterback.
Yeah. But also the talent. It's hard to be that committed to something when you probably know you're not going to do much with your career. I can't imagine unless you're, Chase Daniels or Charlie Whitehurst or something where you're just content with being a backup. But from going to the peak of the mountaintop and also being a guy that doesn't really want the spotlight, I'm not too surprised by that. He's just a good dude. But again, that's just another wrinkle that they wanted to add into it. God, I wanted to see Phillip Rivers on a quarterback documentary. I think that would have been fascinating.
He annoys me too much.
He's one of those weirdos with the obsession. I think it would have been hilarious to see him on there, especially with all his mic'd up moments.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, but like him telling Rolando McClain, like, you think that's a good blitz? That's a bad blitz. You put that on film?
Yeah,
he just annoyed the crap out of me, but he probably would be great. You see, he's having a 10th kid.
I did.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's fielding himself his whole offense.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I think what makes that show really good is the access the quarterbacks are willing to give to the film crews.
I was just gonna say, do you think his kid who's gonna play running back is gonna get underpaid in terms of allowance?
I'm just preparing him for the future.
Sorry. Continue on.
No. You're right though. What made that show really good was the access the quarterbacks are willing to give, whether it comes to their families or their process of how they prepare for the game. Which is why this show is going to be 10 times better than whatever we get with the Jets in Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Because I think you see the clip with Vern Glenn?
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Yeah, Vern Glenn met up with Aaron Rodgers in Tahoe, and he was like, you see that camera right there? Nah, better get used to that. It's going to be a lot of cameras in Hard Knocks. And Aaron Rodgers, I guess, really likes Vern Glenn from growing up in the Bay Area. But basically said he only likes Hard Knocks because of the voice of God, Lee Shriver, which he hopes to meet, which I don't want to be, breaking any hearts here, but Steven, I don't know if Lee Shriver is going to be part of Hard Knocks if we're having this strike.
He's going to be behind a microphone in a crowded booth. He's not going to be anywhere near Jets training camp. So He will not have the opportunity to meet me. I'm Lee Shriver.
That's what I'm saying. You may have to fill in because Lee Shriver...
I could do that.
While he's on strike for SAG, they need someone to voice Hard Knocks.
Bryce Hall tore his ACL last year. He was kept out for the entire season. He could have been a Rookie of the Year had he not tore his ACL.
Someone will write it for you. Don't worry.
No, yeah, please. I need a script writer. Wait, they're on strike too. Damn it.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Shit. Yeah.
We're screwed.
We may just get AI of Lee Shriver's voice.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, brings us to, I guess, pop culture catch-up.
All right.
Little review of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Steven, you saw the film as well. You took Jesse to see the movie, I'm sure against her will. What'd you think?
So what I did was strategy, going down to visit her dad in Sunnyvale and the family. No, her dad would have been into the movie. So I asked her, hey, do you think your dad would want to go watch Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning? She texts her dad and her brother. They respond, yes. So we watch it. Complete Mission Impossible. Mission accomplished.
There you go.
Loved it.
Loved the whole thing. 2 hours and
Oh.
45 minutes of it.
Oh, just an action-packed thrill ride. Tom Cruise sprinting. Tom Cruise confused when behind the wheel of a car. He always seems to look really confused there. Although except he's just unbelievable at it. Like to think that all those stunts totally real.
Well, it was mostly him. Probably some CGI here or there, but
I am, I got to say though, the whole driving off a cliff thing
disappointing.
that went viral. Yeah, it's just because I was so excited for the movie, and when I saw that whole behind the scenes of, I don't know, I guess I don't know. It's not too much of a spoiler alert now because they used it to promote their movie.
Yeah.
But like with him jumping off the cliff with a motorcycle, I watched that like 10, 12 times before I saw the movie. Like not right before, but like over the course of the time they released it to the movie's release.
Yeah.
It kind of ruined it for me. I remember watching that, like, that was like the most underwhelming part of that movie. Can't they keep that a secret?
Well, they need something to promote in the trailers, but
I know,
yeah,
but it's Mission Impossible. You don't need to do anything to promote it. All you say is Tom Cruise sprinting across cities. That's it.
I like how he leans into that joke now. Like he's
Yeah.
basically like, "Oh yeah, you think I run in all my movies? You're damn right I do." Like it's him trying to prove that he could have been a good athlete in high school, or he was a good athlete in high school. He tries to prove that in all his movies.
He was in all the right moves.
Yeah, he loves showing his running
Hands
ability.
straight out, high knees. Make sure you keep your arms at a 90-degree angle. I made such a big deal of it that every single time that he started sprinting, Jesse's dad and her brother looked over at me and could just see me grinning from ear to ear. Dude, the shot, I don't want to ruin anything, but there's a shot of him sprinting. It's like a silhouette of him sprinting.
Yes.
I died laughing when I
Oh
saw
no,
that.
I laughed my ass off a lot.
Oh my God.
There's just a lot of things they leaned into. Yeah, the motorcycle off the cliff scene was fun in the sense that it was just crazy, but yeah, it was ruined by showing a little too much of the trailers.
Just a little, and I just want to dip my toe in the water. I don't want to put my full foot in there, which is what that damn cliff shot did. I didn't need to see all the CG. Oh.
But they did the same thing when they showed him hanging off the side of the plane for whatever movie that was.
Correct.
They ruined that moment too with the over promotion of that.
I think that was that wasn't Fallout. That was the one in between
Fallout.
That was in between Ghost
Rogue
Protocol
Nation?
and Fallout. It was Rogue Nation. It was the beginning of Rogue Nation.
Yeah. I would say the better stunt in the movie is towards the end with the train, and you know what I'm talking about, Steven.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, which one? There's like 1,000 stunts, Derek.
Well, they do a lot. There's a lot of what I do like about the film is that there's a lot of callbacks to the original movie, the first one.
Yeah.
Where they bring in what's his name, Kidrick.
Kendrick. Yeah.
Yeah, he's back for like some scenes here or there. And there's a lot of train stuff. You remember from the first one, there's a fight on the train between him and John Voight. Which, by the way, this blew my mind. John Voight was 58 when the first movie came out, and he looks old as hell. Tom Cruise is 61, and he looks like he's 40.
Oh, a little help.
Yeah, he's doing the avocado diet too.
Yeah, he gets by with a little help from plastic surgery. Just like A-Rod.
Yeah. And a lot of hair dye. But as far as the movie itself, it was fun. A fun time of the movies. I saw it in IMAX with a buddy of mine. It was a great time. But it did feel a little marvelly at times, if you know what I mean. Just a lot of unnecessary comedy, kind of forced stuff, kind of a little lighter. I liked Fallout a lot better because Fallout I thought had legit stakes and just more dramatic elements between, Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill and his whole closure with his wife. Just better action, a little like darker, like the opening scene where they convince the terrorist that he destroyed multiple cities, and in the end it was just fake. It was like Simon Pegg in a mask as Wolf Blitzer. Like that I thought Fallout was perfect.
Oh,
Compared to this, it's just a little more cartoony, I would say, but still a very well done
oh,
Mission Impossible movie.
it's still Mission Impossible. I mean, you're not going to top Henry Cavill acting like loading his arms up like they're guns.
Now, I will say that's still not the best Mission Impossible villain. Like my one biggest criticism of this movie is, so there's like a deeper meaning. The whole plot of the movie is they're fighting this AI thing that's attacking cities. This movie was made well before the whole writer strike, but it's incredible timing with the fight against real actors that Tom Cruise is fighting versus artificial intelligence, which is what this whole movie's about. But the actor, I don't know his name. He was on Ozark. The main villain in the movie, eh, like they haven't had a strong villain since Philip Seymour Hoffman, in my opinion, as far as Mission Impossible movies. So I'm hoping
Eh.
that is a little better when they have the finality of this in part two. But that was the weakest part, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure, but at least he could fight. Sprinting.
Yeah.
Sprinting across Venice.
And I do love one of my favorite parts of the Mission Impossible series is Ving Rhames being calm, cool, and collected in like moments where everybody else would be hectic. He's just like, "Sorry, Ethan. I just want to let you know that there's a bomb in the airport.
Oh,
Why didn't you tell me that earlier? It's okay. We're disarming it." And he's like the ultimate friend too. Like in earlier movies, like in Fallout, he's like, "You have to know this thing about Ethan. Him and his wife, they had a good marriage, but in the end, she knew that she could not share the world with him." It's like, this is a lot of exposition, but thank you.
Ugh. It's the best. Everything
Yeah.
about it. I'm already buying my ticket for part 2.
Well, that's a little overkill, but okay.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah, when's it coming out? Next June?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, June 12th.
Just throwing a date there.
Yeah, Theater of the Mind.
Theater of the mind. And yes, I could not take my eyes off of Haley Atwell.
I couldn't take my eyes off of the lady sitting next to me. She's flipping me off.
All right, Steve. On that note, we are still in a rain delay. I don't know if this game's going to be played tonight. What time is it in Cincinnati right now?
It's 9:30, I think. 9:35.
Yeah. And no, it's not a spoiler, Ernie 2. The name of the movie's Part 1.
Yeah, do you not see that, Ernie? Come on. Ernie 2 should know. There's going to be a part 2.
There was always going to be a Part 2. It was announced. All right, Steven. That's enough for today. We'll see if there's any clarity in the next few days with Josh Jacobs. My guess is going to be no. That this is going to last a long time. So hopefully we see Josh Jacobs become a Raider again. But that seems to be up in the air at this point. And yes, I was thoroughly disappointed with DeAndre Hopkins going to the Titans. But now we wait for Dalvin Cook. That's my new thing.
Arms. Oh, Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be even more depressing for you.
Not really.
Look for something else. Good God.
What? I should wait for this Ohtani trade or Damian Lillard or James Harden?
You should just not wait for what athletes do at all and focus on other things.
This is the life we chose, man.
Well, it's the life you chose. You don't have to choose that. It's your mission. You don't need to choose to accept it.
That is true. That is true. And on that note, when we do this again, we have a big old barbecue to get to this weekend at A. Scott's house.
Do we? Oh yeah, forgot about that.
All right, we'll figure it out. Saturday, Sunday, something. Most likely Saturday. Saturday good for you?
What, for Alex's barbecue? We gonna plan that on the pod?
No, not well. The barbecue will happen that day, but earlier in the day we could do the pod.
I'm good with that.
All right then, Ernie's. We'll see you there. In the meantime and in between time, Steven, say what you want to say.
It's just our opinion, man.